This aviary were built well over 10 years ago when I came back into bird keeping. What you see is 1 inch by ½ inch wire, which is no good at all because mice can run straight through it. So if you're building your own aviary, or even if you're buying one, make sure you don't use this stuff. You need ½ by ½ inch or even less. The trouble with the 1/4 by 1/4 is it's very thin, very expensive, and it doesn't last long. But this stuff's no good at all. These birds are violet-eared waxbills, the cock nearest to us, the hen furthest away. They're very delicate birds. They don't do very well in our climate at all. They can be aggressive, either one to the other. Not to be recommended, especially not to beginners. They cost well over £100. Sort of birds you need to stay away from, unless you really want a challenge. This is a cock orange-cheeked waxbill. It's a bird I bred a few years ago. Featured in the first video I made a couple of years ago. It's in perfect condition at the moment. This is spring when you're seeing this. If it turns round, you'll see an orange patch under the vent which is almost fluorescent, and tells me that this bird's a cock. Not all birds have it. It depends which part of Africa I think they've come from. But if you breed your own birds, you can see it in your own birds. The ones with the most orange under that vent will be the cocks. This is hen. This is not in as good condition at all. It's still finishing off the moult. These birds are very underrated. If an import ban comes, these will be one of the first to go. I can breed virtually any species, but that I have myself, and this one's the hardest one that I have. They can be bullied. They can even be bullies themselves. I would recommend you have just one pair of these, either in a mixed collection or on their own. When you have them as a colony, it just doesn't work. They're forever interfering in each other's nests. The red-eared waxbill, on the other hand, would be more ideal for a colony. You can sometimes sex them by the cheek patch, but again, it's not very reliable. If they're molting at all, that cheek patch doesn't show up right. I prefer to sex them on the display. If you treat them as monomorphic and look how they behave towards each other, I think that's the best way to be reliant on choosing a pair. The patch there under the vent doesn't show up well at all times of the year, just mainly in the spring as they come into breeding condition. You can see with this hen she don't have any. This is an old pair of blue cap waxbills. The cock was a nervous bird, and I always had difficulty finding him somewhere that was suitable, but as they reached this age I knew I had to do something to get some chicks from them. So they'd failed in a double breeder, they'd failed in an indoor flight 2'6" square. So what I've put them in here is an indoor section 6'6" high, 6 foot long and 3 foot wide. Initially I hadn't quite got them into good enough condition. The beak colour was still pale, and they wouldn't feed the chicks, and they let them die. She was coming off the nest as if she were frightened. She'd never had chicks before, agitated, and I say she let them die. So what I did with the next clutch, I fostered a few clutches, both under Bengalese, and I also put some in a black crown waxbill's nest. This is one of the young blue caps I mentioned earlier. It's in a different flight that was fostered by a couple of black crown waxbills, and there were also a a cock goldbreast in on the feeding. As you can see, this bird is doing really well now. This is a cock purple grenadier, another species I wouldn't recommend. Willing to go to nest, but they can be aggressive, very aggressive. There's the hen. As you can see from this behaviour, she's doing everything she can to keep out of his way. She ends up tied out on the floor eventually, and I have to separate them. As you can see, she's having a rest down there, trying to keep out of his way. This is a black crown waxbill's nest. It's got 3 chicks in here at the moment. That's a better view of it. This is a cock red-cheeked cordon bleu. This bird had several clutches of chicks, which will feature later. He was a very good breeding bird. I'd had him several years, and he'd done nothing with the hen previously. He was an imported bird. I eventually put him to a captive bred hen of mine, and so they were very good breeding birds. This is one of his latest chicks. This is a young hen. There'll be quite a few more of these later. This is indoors again with the blue caps. Some of the chicks have come out here. What happened in this case was 4 chicks came out, and then 2 days later another 2 came out. So I wouldn't recommend you go poking about in there, because these birds sit tight on the nest and they don't like interference at all. They often make this noise when the chicks first come out, and they also do this on the first day that they hatch. They'll be quite noisy. It's a good indication. Here's another one. The keenness for live food, which normally they won't come for while I'm around, but they really want to get this, eat it, and get back and feed the chicks. As I say, I fostered the first few, well, the second and third clutch I think it was, and then I happened to come in here one day and I heard chicks calling. They were off the nest. I had a look in the nest. I could see they were 3 days or so old. They got food in the crop, and that was the last time I looked at them. I saw enough from the behaviour to know that this time it was going to be alright. What I also noticed with this pair is that they needed twice as much live food as what I normally give them. They were emptying the dish, and I put some more in. They were emptying that as well. I'll give it to them about every 4 hours or so, and that works. Often if I don't give them any, then the chicks will be deserted or perhaps even thrown out. As you can see, this cock red-cheeked cordon is in excellent condition. This is how you really want to try and get your birds when you're putting them to breed. This is a young black crown waxbill that were fed by its parents, which came out of the same nest with it were about 5 blue cap waxbills, but they're also fostered in there. Here you see the blue caps very excited and protected of the chicks. Do a lot of the videoing outdoors because the lighting in these bird rooms is not very good. It's just ordinary like house lighting. I would like to have the full spectrum daylight tubes in, but they are expensive. See in the right hand corner there, I use red anjou millet sprays quite a lot when I can't get seeding grasses especially, and these are good for the birds when they're first starting to pick for themselves. So use a good quality foreign finch mix. I don't go to pet shops which tend to sell the cheapest. They don't have a very quick turnover and you could be ending up using old seed. So I go directly to Johnston & Jeff's, where I also get the red anjou millet sprays. You can see this is a young black crown waxbill, quite acrobatic on these red anjou sprays. It's picking about at little bits, but most of it's gone now, and I'll be ready to change these sprays shortly. I usually change them twice a week when chicks are just fledged, because they do get through quite a lot of this, and all the other birds in there will go at it as well. So what I tend to do is I throw the rest of it to my resting Bengalese, and they strip it bare. Black crown waxbills were the only chicks that were raised outside this year. Several of them didn't have a choice and just had indoor accommodation, but quite a few of them had a choice of both inside and outside, and chose indoors even though we've had a quite a good summer. There's a bit better view of it. What you find with these birds when they first leave the nest is they can soon learn to fly, and as soon as they do, they'll be on such as this or seeding grasses, starting to feed themselves, and at the same time being topped up by the parents for a week or two. As you can see, he's enjoying these little seeds. He's having to look for them now. They do really strip them bare. Much better than cheap Chinese sprays. If you buy your bird the best, you've got a better chance of doing well with them. Buy them cheap rubbish and not forced to be as successful. I've bred quite a lot of cordon bleu waxbills over the years, but I never get fed up of seeing them. It's a lovely sight when your chicks first come out of the nest. And there you can see lovely healthy little chick. Here we're back indoors again with the blue caps. That one's a young cock. Got more blue on it than some of the others you'll see. And that blue from the wing to the chest area is usually missing on the ends. Should be your aim to breed your own waxbills. For years they've been importing these birds, and we're getting a bit complacent. People are thinking it's never going to happen, this import ban, but there are restrictions coming into force all the time. Parts of South Africa, which often have the most beautiful birds, have banned export. They're having more trouble with airlines, customs, all sorts of things. Some of the birds are now on the endangered list. Their environment is and habitat is being destroyed. So there are restrictions coming in all the way through about getting these birds exported from Africa, and really we should be breeding. We should have been breeding these years ago. Such birds as these are not difficult to breed. You must give them protection. What you're seeing is, although it's an outdoor planted flight, it's got covered roofs, covered all around the sides, and if there was a downpour, which there were no cover, these birds would perhaps die overnight, or heavy winds. But as it is, these are protected and these birds are safe. This is a young cock cordon blue. As you can see, there's a lot of blue down its side from its wing to its chest area, and they're richer colour than the hens. There's an older hen going to come into the picture in a minute. You'll see very little blue down its side, as you can see there. If you were looking in a dealer's at a dealer's birds, you might be tempted to think that that was a hen and go for a bird with a richer blue, but you'd be much better going for a bird with very little blue down its side, and then you've a better chance of getting an hen. What usually happens is the bluer birds molt out into cocks a bit later on. The cordon blues that were in here were churning chicks out very fast. They'd no sooner got a clutch fledged and they'd be feeding them for about a week, and they'd got another clutch going, sometimes even before that. They bred several clutches and well into double figures this year. There's a youngster from the same clutch. Often you get a few days difference between them. The older birds come out and the little ones usually follow. So if there were a downpour or anything, this bird with not much covering and not as strong as the others would be at risk. This is the parent hen bird. You can see the left leg is bent. That's the only reason I kept her. It's not the sort of thing you pass on to somebody, but she has been a really good breeding bird. It hasn't stopped her in any way. As you can see. Here's the little one again. It's a hen goldbreast sat in the nest. There's the cock. Cock's a brighter colour and has a red eye stripe. Hen's paler colours and the red eye stripe's missing.